Welcome to the ztC Edge Initial Deployment Training module. In this training module, we'll walk through the steps required to successfully deploy your ztC Edge system. In this training module, we'll walk through the steps required to deploy a single node environment as well as a dual node environment. Here you'll see a typical dual node ztC Edge environment, where there are two nodes, a blue cable directly connected to the ztC Edge private or Priv0 network, a yellow cable directly connected to the ztC Edge A-Links network, two network cables, one for each node, plugged into the P1 network connector going out to your local area network for management of the ztC Edge system, and optionally, a cable in each node going out to your network from port P2 for network expansion. Both nodes will be connected to power, preferably each connection going to a separate power source, a monitor connected for viewing the deployment process, and a keyboard for entering information during the deployment. Please note that this shows a tabletop deployment. Your ztC Edge system ships with DIN rail and wall mount kits, providing you with the flexibility of setting up your system in a manner that best suits your environment. Please note, if you'll be deploying in a single node environment, you'll only receive a single node. The deployment steps covered in this training module are also included in the quick deployment guide that ships with your system. The guide provides you with the 6 steps necessary to successfully deploy your environment. We'll now cover these 6 deployment steps. Let's now walk through the process of initially deploying your ztC Edge environment. At this point in the process, we'll cover a single node deployment. Later in the module, a dual node deployment will be covered. We'll first look at step 1, connecting a keyboard, monitor, and power to the node. Then step 2, powering on the node and entering a single node deployment. And step 3, connecting the P1 network port. Here you'll see a typical ztC single node environment, where there is a single node, a cable connected to the P1 network for access to your existing LAN, a keyboard, monitor, and power. To begin the deployment, power on your node. When the monitor screen displays instructions, make sure you press the S key to deploy a single node. The required confirmation of choice screen appears next. This tells you that you've selected a single node system and prompts you to continue with the deployment. If you select yes, the single node deployment will continue. If you select no, you will be taken back to the deployment screen. In this example, we'll select yes. Next, select the keyboard mapping for the deployment and click OK to continue, or click back to go back to the required confirmation of choice screen. We'll select USA key map and click OK. Now, a message on the screen instructs you to select the method to configure the network address of this node. Use the Tab key to select one of the following: Automatic configuration via DHCP, which is the default selection. When selected, this option configures the P1 network as a dynamic IP configuration. The manual configuration static address option is used if you'll be providing a static IP address for your P1 network. A dialog box will appear allowing you to enter IP addresses obtained from your network administrator. You'll need an IPv4 network address, IPv4 netmask address, and an optional gateway address. We'll select Manual Configuration and use the Tab key to click on OK. The static network configuration screen appears. Enter valid values in the IPv4 address, IPv4 netmask, and optionally, the gateway fields. Click OK to continue. A Confirm Configuration dialog box appears. Validate your entries and use the arrow keys or Tab key to navigate to Save, which is the default, to save the displayed values, or navigate to Back to return to the previous screen. We'll select Save and then press the Enter key. We'll now move on to step 4. The deployment will begin. The screen will continue to display various status messages for 5 to 10 minutes until the deployment completes. When the deployment completes, you'll be asked to connect to an IPv4 address. If you selected static network configuration during the initial setup, enter the IPv4 address you provided. If you selected automatic configuration via DHCP, enter the IPv4 address provided by the system. To complete the single node installation, please view the initially accessing the ztC console, registering your system training module. In this module, you'll complete the deployment by performing Step 5, accessing the ztC console, and Step 6, registering your system. We'll now walk through a dual node deployment. The deployment steps covered in this training module are also included in the quick deployment guide that ships with your system. The guide provides you with the 6 steps necessary to successfully deploy your environment. We'll now cover these 6 deployment steps. Step 1 is to connect the keyboard, monitor, and power to one of the nodes. In this example, we've connected the monitor, keyboard, and power to one of the nodes. In Step 2, the node should automatically power on once power has been applied. If it does not, press the power button and then watch the monitor. When the monitor screen displays instructions, press the 1 key to deploy the first node. You'll next see a message stating, "Continuing as first node." The next screen instructs you to select the method to configure the P1 or private network address of this node. Use the Tab, Arrow, or Escape key to select one of the following. Automatic configuration via DHCP, which is the default selection. Select this method to configure P1 as a dynamic IP configuration. Manual configuration static address. Select this method to manually provide IP addresses for P1. When selecting manual configuration, a dialog box appears for you to enter these values, which you'll obtain from your network administrator. The values you need to supply are the IP address for this node, the subnet mask for this node, and a default gateway, which is optional. If you enter invalid information, the dialog box redisplays until you enter valid information. Use the Tab key to navigate to OK or back, and then press Enter. A confirmation dialog box appears. Use the arrow keys or Tab key to navigate to Save, which is the default, to save the displayed values, or to navigate to Back to return to the previous window. Then press Enter. If you save the values, a blue screen appears for several seconds. Then you'll see a message in the lower left corner of the screen stating, "All settings confirmed, processing." We'll now continue on to Step 3. A message to unpack the second node appears. Follow the messages on the screen, which also instruct you to connect the blue and yellow network cables and to power on the second node. We'll first connect the cables to the first node. Notice the ports on the ztC Edge node are clearly labeled. The private network port is blue in color and has a single white dot. The A-Link port is yellow in color and identified with 2 black dots. The corresponding blue cable that was shipped with the nodes also has a single white dot. Connect the blue cable. The corresponding yellow cable that was shipped with the nodes has 2 black dots. Connect the yellow cable. There are also 2 additional network ports, P1 and P2. P1 is required as it is used as the ztC Edge's management port. Plug a network cable into port P1 and out to your local network. Port P2 is an optional network and is used for network expansion. Plug in a network cable into port P1 and out to your local network. We'll now connect the cables and power to the second node. The blue cable from the first node directly connects to the blue port on the second node. And the yellow cable from the first node directly connects to the yellow port on the second node. Add a network cable to the P1 port on the second node and out to your local area network. Connect power to the second node and power it on. You can now go back to viewing the progress on the monitor. We'll now move on to step 4. After cabling the two nodes, you'll see some networking messages, and then the deployment begins. The screen will display various status messages for up to 15 minutes. The process in this video has been expedited. Step 5 has us gather an IP address that will be used to access the ztC console. Once completed, the screen displays a message to connect to an IP address in the web browser. Please make note of the IP address because it will be used to log on to the ztC Edge console. The monitor connected to the first node displays no more additional prompts. If you configured P1 as the dynamic IP configuration, record its IP address. Note, if you configured incorrect network settings, for example you mistyped an IP address, you can press the 1 key to redeploy the first node and repeat the deployment steps to correct the problem. This completes the ztC Edge initial deployment training module. To continue on with accessing the ztC console and registering your system, please watch the Initially Accessing the ztC Console, Registering Your System training module. Thank you for viewing this module.